What is up? Sexy, sexy people. It is Dave. It is Duncan, back from Metal Epidemic for another album review. And for this review, Duncan and I have been checking out the new release from funeral grind band Knoll. The band's new album, As Spoken, will be released on January 26th. So, formed in 2017, the Tennessee Noisemakers return with album number 3, which follows up 2022's Metempiric, which we reviewed and rather enjoyed. Having pummeled the underground grind circle with their introductory works Interstice and Metempiric, Knoll uttered back with As Spoken, a 40-minute monument that sees the act at their most warped and eerie in delivery, only further advancing the unforgiving structures for which they are known. The record is entirely accompanied by nightmarish, low-fidelity film to be released over its moments, writhing in the light. This November saw Knoll's first excursion overseas, touring Europe and the United Kingdom. A returning venture to the United States is anticipated following the album's release. So, January, Duncan. January.
Yep, the January blues are here, Dave.
January is a absolute cunt of a month, Duncan.
Yep.
It is post-Christmas and New Year, so everybody feels that, a little bit of depression inside.
Ooh.
You've got the absolute doom about returning to work.
Who wants to go back? I mean,
Nobody. You've put on a few pounds throughout the holidays.
or all the pounds, if you're
You've drank a little bit too much.
still going.
Your bank account has been absolutely ravaged.
Yep, they're taking the house and the wains from me.
It is cold and just fucking generally miserable, Duncan.
To put it like the backdrop of this week of recording is that we've been hit with 2 storms that had names back to back.
Yep.
So,
storms.
yeah. I
Over
mean,
100-mile-an-hour winds hitting Scotland.
Yes.
It's all happening in January.
oh, the gift it keeps on giving.
Now, if there was an album that could mirror the feeling of January
A distilled January, if you will.
in audio form, it might just be As Spoken by Knoll, Duncan.
Aye, it's a bleak little number. Like, what's Margot Robbie wearing on the red carpet? Well, it's a bleak little number. It's As Spoken by Knoll. Yeah, this album has not a shred of happiness.
No, it does not.
not a molecule of joy in this cup.
Nope. I mentioned their last album, Metempiric, was a fairly visceral affair.
Yeah.
Heavy on the grind, and just like really dismal at its core. Yeah, I'm assuming through some form of witchcraft, Knoll have managed to take all of that was ugly and bleak from Metempiric and somehow make it even more grim, which I didn't believe was actually possible, to be honest.
It's a new coat of paint, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
Let's spruce up the sound with the dank.
This album, though, that fuck me album. This album just fucking. It's got all the intensity of their previous releases, but somehow this feels even more ambitious than Metempiric. There's a. I was thinking about this the day I was listening to it again, and there's almost this like kind of thematic kind of coating to this album. It's a very black coating, I will admit. But I've never heard it done to this level by Knoll before. Like, this is a new level of bleak for this band. They've gone much deeper on this one, and I mean deep on this. This is what I imagine the gutters of hell sound like, because firstly the black metal side of the band is definitely more potent on As Spoken. And it hits you right away on the title track. The guitars are just thoroughly soaked in really like blackened riffs, played at speed. really like hammering kind of blast beats on that first track, and these like fucking scorched earth, just visceral vocals that come out on that first track. But what Knoll have done very, very cleverly on this album and on that first track is they've added these little elements of death metal, of grind, of crust, and almost a kind of experimental streak, and it's all kind of interspliced with that kind of heavily blackened sound. It's a little bit avant-garde at times as well. But when they bring it all together into one track, it's kind of mind-blowingly good, Duncan. I'm not gonna lie, I'm fucking in love with this album.
There we go.
Kind of obsessed with it. You know, when you like you listen to an album and like you'll occasionally make that like that like disgusted face. You know what I mean? Like when you hear a really filthy riff or a really like menacing scream. This album is one long disgusted face. It is one of the most intense, gruesome, wretched albums I've heard in a long time, and I genuinely loved every minute of it. I've played this. I think I did about 8 listens of this album.
For fuck's sake.
In the last week, and every time I hear it, I kind of love it even more. And I was listening to every time I listened to it, I was picking up new things. But I think that the difference for me between this and Meta-Empiric, which I really loved as well, but there was kind of 2 things that kind of stood out that was different. Firstly, the boundaries on this have been pushed even more than the last album, and the last album was extreme, but this is like another level. This is musically, vocally, thematically, just really pushed across the board. The playing on this is incredible. I think I read somewhere that they had a new guitarist. It didn't mention anything in the press release, but I think they might have had. I remember reading about a change in guitarist, but regardless, the playing is. It's weird. The playing is technical, like it's extremely well played, but it's less techy than the last album, if that makes sense. The guitars almost feel slightly less riff focused, although there's still plenty of killer riffs in there. But I felt like a lot of it was more about the kind of the mood of the album, and that kind of brings me on to the second thing I love about this is this kind of nightmarish theme that this album has. The guitars make this album sound incredibly ominous. The chord choices they've picked, the dissonance of the chords, but especially the way they've leaned further into that Blackened side, it adds a real like this whole new level of morbidity to their sound. But it's not just the guitars. Vocally, James sounds like a man possessed on this album. Like his vocals on As Spoken are feral, for want of a better word. He's reaching into new places on this one. It's still very, very gnarly and like his voice is full of rasp. But the pitch and that kind of like more blackened tone is just incredible on this. It's like, and it doesn't sound like this guy, but it kind of reminded me of him. It's like a Travis Ryan on steroids almost. Like, and I mentioned Travis Ryan because like him, James isn't just like kind of screaming his lungs out. There's a lot of technique there. There's a lot of control to get that right, that sound, that exact sound that he's going for. I think like the 3 albums they've done, this is, for me, I think this is his best vocal performance to date. I thought his vocals in this were just fucking incredible. I love how they've kind of hung this album together. I think the tracking order of the album is perfect. Like the flow and from one track into the next, every track giving you a slight, different slant on new ideas, and it's very small things that they'll change. It's not an album that goes for big obvious, like here's a big breakdown part or a big shift that's very obvious. It's a lot of it is quite subtle, just small tempo changes or a kind of rhythm switch. But I noticed that after 2 or 3 listens, you start to clock these little intricate changes that take the track in different directions, or the tracks in different directions. There's also kind of layers of bleak and kind of doomy sounds and atmosphere that also almost sits in the background of a lot of the tracks as well, which for me added to that whole kind of feeling of dread that just encompasses this album so well. One thing I did like that they've kept on this album that was on the last one was the use of the brass, and they've had a bit of trumpet on the last album. I actually think it works even better on As Spoken. Revival of Light is the track that it appears on. I thought that was a stroke of genius. I think it's Ryan, one of the guitarists, I think he plays trumpet on the album. And it makes that track a real highlight. When that kicked in, I got chills when that kind of brass section kicked in. I was like, that is just fucking perfectly placed. I love where they've put that on the track. It's an album that's, it will be demanding for some people. It isn't an easy listen. It's not a Sunday afternoon, chilling on the couch listen.
Depends how your Sunday afternoon's going.
True, that's true. But the ominous mood and the atmosphere of this album just clicked with me instantly, and I was hooked into it. I wouldn't say it's an album that you'll get the most from in small snippets. I think for me anyway, it was a whole album listen, that kind of full album experience, and I felt like it worked best when you listen to it as a full piece. But if you're anything like me, and you stick it on, I think I'm hoping that you love it when you give it a listen. The production also is just like perfectly suited to this album sound. I'm not sure who was in the producer's chair for this. I couldn't find out in time for us recording this review, but I know the last one was done.
I think it's safe to say. I think Satan. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure
the Lord of Darkness came out of the pits of hell for one time only at a retirement. Laid down the engineering work there, and then said, "I now grant you the power to ravage the earth." Bye.
The last album, I'm sure, was Kurt Ballou, and I'm sure Brad Boatwright was involved in the last one as well. But so I'm not sure if those guys are involved here again. But I think the production fits the band's real, that kind of malevolent sound they've got in this album is absolutely suited to it. I think like a production is often used to emphasize, how brutal or heavy an album is by making the riffs sound huge or the drums really impactful. But this production, it doesn't feel like it's about that. It's produced in a way that just kind of reinforces the overall weight and the tone and the character of the album. Yeah, and I think it's absolutely perfectly done. I love this. This is my highlight for January, to be honest. I know we're right at the end of the month, but this is probably the best thing I've heard all month. Absolutely loved it. Knocked it out of the park, guys. Duncan, what are you thinking? What do you make?
That they have LLNNified this. That's just the way you would describe these things now. Like there is like that feeling of dread. It never leaves for a second. Like any second on this, it just hangs over it. Like through every nuance, just has this feeling that the world's about to end. Like yourself, like the big standout to me, or the big shift change, was the leaning more into the Blackened elements, which I mean were present, more than present on the previous release, but in this one, it really did kind of feel like that was a conscious shift there, not only through the riffing but vocally as well. That confidence to push a Blackened kind of very. I mean, this album has all the charm of a nightclub bumming. You know what I mean? And just absolutely rank. It's just it really. I don't know where that came from. I'm not happy with myself that I said that either, at all. But it does. It really. It just. Like when it finished the first time, it's kind of interesting because last week we spoke about the Guts album, and I was like that. Like first listen, I was fucking locked in. I was all in, and you were like, first listen, I was like, let's just have a wee lie down. And that was me at the end of this one now, so with reverse roles. Right. At the end of this, I was kind of just like, and had we not had a kind of funky hardcore album, which we are going to be talking about shortly, just like enthused 90s sunshine. It might have been a few days before I came back to this, but I found that was a good kind of palate cleanser. It was like a little bit of musical sorbet in between the listens. I'll tell you what about this. Like, I can never hand on heart say I love this sort of music, because it does, like, by the time I get to the end, I feel sapped of life. Because it takes a lot of, it's not background music. This takes like the attention to detail, the work on the guitar riff, and the drumming, like small nuances in the drumming that I actually love. You mentioned Reveal of Light earlier on, which has that amazing trumpet bit, which is like, it's not in there it's kind of like a trumpet solo if fucking Kerry King wrote it. It's like all in the wrong notes, and it's all just to make you feel unpleasant. And it's a bit where the track is just essentially leading its way out, and it's this very kind of slow kind of, it's like cymbal or ride that's just kind of playing, and the snare drums hitting, and the bass drums working slow, and then in no like discernible pattern, it'll just start, the bass drum starts to speed up, but everything else just keeps that slow, and then it just kind of goes back down. And it's kind of like the drummer's just like, a wee bit and then a wee bit out. And it does have, you mentioned the Avant-Garde, it does have a little bit of the jazz about it. And I kind of love that about it. It kind of hits you with unpredictability in the first listens. Now, when you acclimate to it by the third listen, those points become a bit more strategically placed, and they're actually used less to evoke a change in pace or whatnot, but actually more to increase or decrease atmosphere, or use the space that's available to fill it out with something that makes you go, oh, right, fuck. And it is at times, it's like an assault on the senses by different instrumentation, textures, and tones from different parts, all like fucking surrounded by just the most hellacious vocals that you'll hear. And that takes talent. That, like see when people say, oh, it's just fucking noise. You're like, well, let's analyze what that means to you. What do you mean by noise? I could see someone listening to this and coming out the other end and being like, that is just fucking, it's a racket, isn't it? It's just noise. And that like completely does a disservice to the songwriting in this one, which is like, I think is a level up. I think there's like more attention to dynamic shifts in this one than there was in the previous one. The song placement actually accentuates the dynamicism of that. And then the placement of the tracks themselves, like Reveal of Light, the one that you mentioned before, finishes with this kind of slowed down recording of the song. It's just like almost kind of quasi-industrial if you just fucked everything down at 1 beat per hour. It's just like fucking slow as shit. It's like a geriatric transformer working a Zimmer frame. It's just fucking like all kind of jutty and kind of clawing to the end. And you're kind of like, all right, this is a weird ending to this song. And then Mere Ward kicks in, which is track 5, which is one of the most disgusting tracks on the album. It's fucking vile to listen to. And you come out of this kind of shuddering, slow, monotonous tone to something that just feels like Satan's pulled the fucking ripcord on a chainsaw. And it's those elements, the placement of those songs to give you that, and they're all through this. Like, a track finishes and then the next track isn't exactly picking up from where the previous one left off, but actually its placement, it's either tempo or riff or like vocal that kicks off that track is actually weirdly the best thing to come after that song. It kind of feels like they've really put a bit of craft around that as well. Production, it goes without saying, I prefer this to the previous production, so I think whoever did this one, if it isn't Kurt Below this time or Brad Boatwright involved, I think they've nailed it for the sound. Like, you get all that background stuff, which is very difficult to get that mix just right on that and not too much. The LLNN example is always one of those ones where you're like, like just all that background stuff just sits perfectly to accentuate the sound. It's also a, believe it or not, spry listen at 41 minutes. I mean, you feel it at the end of it, but it's not long. None of the tracks, even the longer ones that even clocking about the 6 minutes, don't feel like they're labouring the point. They're doing things that set up the next track, or they're experimenting with the space that's on the album. So yeah, I could never say I love an album like this, but I can respect this one as much to give it the grade I will be giving it. Yeah, it's very, 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 very good. But it is not unless you're Dave apparently in January, it's not an album you're wanting to spin 8 times in 1 week. Unless, I don't know, you've been passed up for that promotion again, You know, you just found your wife is secretly on OnlyFans. I don't know, right? You know what I mean? Like, unless you're just having.
I wish my wife was an OnlyFans. I could be coining in that dollar if she would just go on it, but no.
No, no. And that's maybe not the pitch that you want to use either. It should be something like, I think your body is so beautiful, you should share it with the world. Not think of all the bank we could be making. Like, see, like maybe just change your tact. Maybe that might work for you there. Yeah, like Knoll are the real deal, and you can see it exponentially now. I if memory serves, I don't think I ever listened to the first release. But that second release like left an impact on me, and this feels like a monumental move up from that, like pure growth in the space of a year. Realistically,
Yeah.
they really are. There really isn't any band that sound like Knoll doing what they're doing. There's bands that you can certainly put in similar spheres of, but it's very difficult to think of anyone that does it kind of like this. And with the intensity that this brings. So yeah, it's great to see them back. It's a great album. Let's get to the grades.
Yeah. Want to say thanks to the band for sending the album to us. They sent it direct to our email.
Cool,
so like, thank you so much. Really appreciate you guys sending the album over us to check out.
You're like, you know who's miserable? The Scots.
Yes.
Let's get the album across to them. They're our target audience.
They've been hit by a storm, are they? Okay, let's hit them with this album. Grades wise, this is the.
You've already said a couple of big lofty words here. If you don't drop the D, then
This is the first album I've heard in 2024 that has left me shooketh, Duncan.
Shooketh?
Has left me shooketh.
Shooketh to the chorus.
Absolutely, it is shooketh me.
Is that terrible? Let's stop this now.
Okay. Some albums just hit differently, and As Spoken just hit me in every way possible. There's something about this album that just, even talking about it now, I'm thinking, I can't wait to listen to this album again.
If you bailed before the other 3 reviews, I'm going to be so disappointed with you.
So like, and that alone tells me how much I really like this album. This is my first 5 of 2024, Duncan.
Ain't a bit like Sweeties, eh?
Dropping it like it's hot. 5 stars from this guy. Duncan, what about yourself? What you scoring?
Yeah, I'm marginally below you. It's a 4.5 for me.
Oh, nice, nice.
As much. I think I gave the previous. I either gave the previous album a 4 or a 4.5, and I think
it was a 4. I think it was a 4.
Yeah, so I think this is better. So like, to me, I couldn't give it a 4. It's better than the previous one. 4.5 from this guy.
Nice. So that is Knoll, As Spoken, out on January 26th. Links below to the band, to the pre-order. Check out, have a listen. Listen if you can. Listen to the whole album. I think it is a much greater experience than listening to one track.
Yeah, don't tidbit this. Like if you're gonna do it fucking right.
Do it right. That is the review. Thank you for checking it out. We'll be back with another review very soon. But till then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.